Okay, so I'm going to talk about checking EPUB3 for accessibility. I'm Romain Deltour from the DAISY Consortium. I would also like to thank my teammates Marisa Di Meglio and Daniel Vec, who are also developers on the ACE tool by DAISY. So first, I like very much this quote about why you should care about accessibility. It's a quote from Jessie Beach, who is the developer from Facebook. And she says, lately I like to replace accessible with usable in my mind, because somehow folks think that accessible is optional, but usable is not. And it's a really great practice because you will never say, well, I produced an EPUB, but it's almost usable. You will not say that, but people do say that about accessibility. So it shows that accessibility and checking that your EPUB is accessible is really important. So how do you make it happen? Well, magic. No, it doesn't work like that, actually. And I have a bad news for you. Accessibility is hard. It's a complex topic. So I see you fainting. Don't worry. Seriously, just read all the documents. EPUB3 specifications, there are only 4 or 5 of them. EPUB Accessibility 1.0, the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, Web Content Accessibility Guidelines techniques, ARIA specification, DPUB ARIA, then how to use ARIA in HTML, the diagram for image descriptions. Then once you have read all these specifications, you have to cross-reference it with what you have in your EPUB. So video, do you have video, audio, text, images, captions, tables, stylish but illegible fonts, print page equivalents, media overlays, just to name a few. So it's really an easy topic. And all you wanted to do was make your ebook accessible. I'm showing a GIF of a woman opening a cupboard and being overwhelmed by plastic bottles. That's the feeling you can have when first diving into accessibility testing. But then I have some good news. Accessibility is easy, and tools can help. What I mean is that the basics of accessibility are very straightforward. It's a matter of structuring your content, checking a few things, and once you do that, you get 80% of the jobs done. And the tools can help you to verify that. So don't be frightened. The difficult part is difficult, but the easy part is very important already, and everyone can do it. Yay. So I'd like to talk about a few tools. My time is limited, but I'm trying to go fast. The first one is the DAISY's knowledge base. I'm putting the link there, and it's available publicly as well. I will tweet it if you want to copy the link. This knowledge base can also be called in Matt We Trust. It's been mostly redacted by Matt Garish. So he's the expert in EPUB and accessibility. And it contains a lot of tips, best practices, guidelines about how to create accessible EPUB content. The other tool that I can recommend is ACE by DAISY. It's developed. It's an open source software. It's free. It's developed by the DAISY Consortium, and it actually helps. It actually integrates web accessibility checking in an EPUB context. So it's powered by Axe by DQ, which is a well-known accessibility checker for the web that is used in other products like Google Lighthouse, Microsoft Sonar. Many web accessibility checkers are using this tool, and in ACE we integrated it to make sure that it can run on an EPUB. So I'm going to give you a brief demo of ACE. ACE is supposed to be a versatile tool, so it's available in several ways. It's available as a command line tool, so you have a terminal window and you tap ACE, and it runs a command, and then you can check an EPUB. So I'm going to check where I am. I'm on my desktop. I'm going to run ACE, outputting to a report there, and I'm going to run it against a book called Redium.epub. It's actually The Redium CSS implementers documentation. So I see Gemini jumping on his chair. Don't worry, it's a sample of this doc, and I introduced accessibility errors into it. So you're not responsible for them. It's on me. Okay, so ACE runs on this book. It tells you that it checks the various content documents, and now it's done. And it created a report in the folder as specified. And in this report, I have a JSON, which is a machine-readable format for the ACE report. But there is also an HTML version of the same report. So I'm going to open the HTML report to see what's there. I'm going to zoom in a bit. So basically, ACE does a few things. It runs automated checks, which identifies known violations, accessibility violations in the content. It also runs data extraction, so it extracts interesting bits of data from the EPUB that can help you evaluate accessibility. So there are four main tabs there in the report. The one is the violations, and you have a summary of violations. It says that there was one critical violation found, 2 serious violations on WCAG, 3 serious violations to the EPUB accessibility standard, and so on and so on. And then you have a detailed list of the violations. So here I have a critical violation which says that an image alt text is missing. So I have a snippet of the markup that tells me where to look to remediate this error. I have a moderate violation that says that my EPUB is missing some accessibility metadata. In this table of violations, you have the location in the book where to look for where to fix the content. You have the rule set the violation is about. You have details about what you can do to fix it, and a link to the knowledge base article about this topic, so you can learn more about how to fix it. Then there is the Metadata tab, where you can access the list of metadata already declared in the book, and you have the list of accessibility metadata. So here there is no accessibility metadata, so it says that the list of accessibility metadata that is missing is this piece of information. You have an outlines tab where you can check whether the TOC, the navigation document of the EPUB that is declared by the author, actually matches the structure of the headings in the book. And you can forget about this third outline, which is the HTML outline. It's not really used by assistive technology, so just forget about it right now. So the two important ones are the EPUB table of contents and the headings outline. The headings is the outline created by the H1 to H6 elements in HTML. And these are the elements that are conveyed by the assistive technology. So it's really important for accessibility. And when I compare these two outlines, I can see that there is a heading there aimed at interoperability, which is level 3 in HTML, but level 2 in the table of contents. So there's something wrong here. There is a mismatch. And probably the user, the author of this book, didn't want to create an H3, but an H2 instead. So I can go back to my book and fix that. Same here in the quick start section, there is a heading important info in the table of contents that doesn't show up in the headings outline. So possibly the user actually used something else, maybe a bold typeface to convey the heading visually, but didn't use the proper semantic markup to do that. So I can go back in my book and fix these. I see there in this section too, yes, this heading important info was a bold one. So if I change that to an H2 instead, then it will fix the outline, and the heading outline will map the outline from the table of contents. So this is not automated reporting of violations. It's data extractions that help an operator to actually see what can go wrong in this book. The final tab is the images tab. It it's a list of all the images found in the book, and along with their alt text or other kind of descriptive text. And it can help you identify whether the alternative description of the image is actually there and is actually corresponds to the image. I have a text here that says 2-column spread model. Maybe the text can be a bit more descriptive about what the image represents, so I can go back in my content and fix that. So that's basically what ACE does. ACE comes, I said, in different flavors. This is the command line tool. There's also a graphical user interface, which is currently in public beta, but which will be released. The version 1.0 will be released soon. For the French people in the audience, it can be it is already localized in French, so you can use a French user interface on that application. So basically, what you do is you drag and drop your EPUB in that window. It runs the checks, and then it creates the same report table that you had in the HTML report we already looked at. So you have the list of violations, the metadata extractions, the outlines, the images, and all. And so you can go back to your EPUB, regenerate your EPUB, fix your EPUB, rerun the report, and you will gradually remediate the accessibility errors in your EPUB. So this tool is free and open source. So go check it. It's also the good thing about the JSON report, which is machine readable, is that it allows you to integrate it in automated production workflows, like they do at Hachette. When they ingest an EPUB from the outsourced companies, they run ACE automatically, and then they analyze the JSON reports, and they can see the automated production workflow can see whether there are violations or not, and whether the file can be rejected or not. It also enabled people to integrate ACE as a plugin to the Sigil EPUB editor. I don't know if you heard about this editor, but it allows integrating ACE in various different places. So the thing is, only 30% of accessibility, the current estimate is about 30% of the WCAG can be automated. So the rest of the rules cannot be automated. So that running ACE will not be enough. You still need to manually inspect accessibility to do a full audit of the accessibility of your content. I repeat that automation is not enough. For example, if you have an image with an alt text that says picture, it's useless. But an automated tool, except if it has AI in it, it won't be able to detect that. If you have a spine in your EPUB which is not in reading order, the automated checker will not detect that. If you have an image which is actually a screenshot of a paragraph of text, the accessibility checker will not be able to detect that. So there are things that you need to do manually. And for that, we also have another tool. This one is not open source. It's not free either. So far, it's available to the DAISY members, and we're still thinking about how other people can use this tool. It's called SMART. It stands for Simplified Manual Accessibility Reporting Tool, and I can very briefly show you how it looks. So basically, it's a web app. The nice thing is that it's integrated with ACE, so you can import an ACE report to this interface, because I already checked that, so I create a new evaluation. And basically what SMART does, it's a guided process it's basically a glorified checklist. So it guides you through all the steps you need to do to fully test the accessibility of your content. So you can say that your format is EPUB3, And here, all the data is pre-filled because I imported the ACE report. So it knows already the title of my book, the author name, the identifier, the publication date, and all that and all that. And then it's a step-by-step process. I can say whether I target WCAG conformance level A or level AA. It says that this criteria, non-text content, fails because ACE reported that there was an image without an alt text. This criteria about video is non-applicable because there are no video in my book. This criteria, I can check it. There is an explanation of what I have to check, and I can say whether it's unverified, whether it's a pass, a fail, and so on and so on. So there is a list of, it's a big checklist of things to check manually. And then you continue to the metadata section. You can, by filling this form, you can actually generate the accessibility metadata that represents your book. It's incomplete here, so there's a warning message. But it generates the metadata that you can then copy-paste into the OPF of your EPUB to declare the accessibility properties of your content. Then I can go to the next step. It will also generate the ONIX record for the accessibility metadata. And then it can generate a report, and I can preview what this report looks like. It's basically an HTML report about the full accessibility, the full picture of the accessibility of my ebook. So I have all the accessibility metadata in there. I have, for each accessibility success criteria from the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, it tells whether this book fails or succeeds or passes these criteria. There are additional info and so on and so on. So this tool is when you want to go a step further than automation and fully check the accessibility. This tool guides you in the process. So that's it for the tools we're developing at DAISY. Thanks, everyone.